And as you
Kathy's
guys are
here.
coming in, tell us in the chat box where you guys are from. We are so honored to have you guys tonight for this incredibly important conversation with my incredible dear friends. I think I have a story with each and every one of you, how you are just so amazing. They are so dear to my heart, and I know that they are going to add so much value tonight. You guys know, you know the drill. I love this platform because we get serious leaders who are passionate about growing and reaching the next generation. They are passionate about partnering with parents. They are passionate about reaching families of all cultures and races and socioeconomic statuses, and being able to do that effectively. So if you are here tonight, I know that you are serious, and that is what this platform is all about. We are trying to plant what we can in the earth to raise up the next generation. But in order to do that, we know, all of you know, and all of us who are on here tonight, we know that you have to go forth with a spirit of excellence. You cannot stay stagnant. You can't think that because you learned something back in the day that it's going to work today, because we are working and operating with an entirely new generation. So I am going to be quiet. I see we have Bahamas in the house. I'm looking at the chat box, you guys. Virginia is in the house. We got
Look at that.
Virginia, Africa.
Yes.
Jane, tell me if I'm saying, right in the chat box, Jane, if I'm saying your name wrong. Because I call her my Janie because I love her so much. Let me tell you what time. Janie, tell us what time it is in Kenya. I mean,
It's going to be some stupid time. It's going to be some dumb time.
These are serious leaders who are, I'm telling you, it is amazing. I am so excited to have you on tonight. Kathy, all of you guys, you are in for a treat. As we get started, we are talking tonight about a whole new world. 4 a.m. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
Wow.
Oh, you poor thing.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness.
I'm telling you, Jane is going to be on here. You're going to see her on the webinar.
That's what I call being on fire for the Lord.
In 2020, you're going to see her with me. That is my sister in Christ, but she knows that we are all in this together. This is a global mission, okay? But I'm going to be quiet. We're talking about a whole new world. I want to maximize this time that we have together. So what I want to do, if just for a second, if you guys, for people who don't know you, if you can tell a little bit about yourself, Sherry, if you can go, Trisha, if you can go next, Todd, if you can go last, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, just so that we can get a little familiar.
Okay, well, for those who've not met me in person, first of all, you need to know that I'm 5'13". I'm checking your math. How good are you at that? Yes, everything goes bigger in Texas, even though I now live in Tennessee. I'm a writer, speaker, mentor, and editor, specifically focusing on women in leadership, because I think that is so very vital. I've spent decades in children's ministry, women's ministry, and as a central office administrator in public education. I understand the dynamics of change. And so if you want to follow me and like the platform and interact, on Facebook, it's at Sherry Lynn Chester. The website is sherry-chester.com, where you can also purchase a signed copy of my book, which is Diction, where vision and action collide, or you can always go to Amazon and get it the next day. Either way, you're good, but I would love to connect with you, because I think all four of us are here tonight wanting to serve others. In the midst of change, the one thing we know is to be of help to others.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And I love Sherry. I've only gotten to meet her like twice before, and these are my people. I love it. I'm Trisha Peach. I'm the author of Your Children's Ministry from Scratch and Your Children's Ministry Beyond Basics. So if you are in Bible college right now for kids ministry, you're probably sick of hearing about those books because you have to read them. I have been a
Go
full-time
ahead,
children's
Brian.
pastor for about 17 years. And I travel and I speak, and I met Miss Esther for the first time in the Bahamas, which was so awesome.
Partner.
Oh my goodness. I was like, this is so great. Jane, I went to Swaziland in South Africa, so I know that's nowhere near Kenya, but I remember it was 7 hours ahead of where everybody of my family and my church were while I was there. And I will say that time there completely changed my life. God's doing such incredible things in Africa. And I came home saying, my gosh, we got a lot to learn here in the States. We got a lot to learn.
Yeah.
I learned so much. I would recommend that to anybody that's thinking about it. But I host the Peach Buzz, which is a kids ministry YouTube channel where we talk about all things kids ministry related. And I have a thing on Twitter. I think it's Pastor T Peach, and of course, Facebook. So I put out a blog every week. I stay really busy, probably too busy. I have a master's in children's and family ministry, and I'm working on my PhD, and that's why all my hair has gone white. So I think I've been sane. Lord Jesus, help me. But this is my favorite place to be, is with other kids ministers. That's what I love.
I love it. Todd, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, these ladies are all way cooler than me. Listen, I just bring the party into whatever room I come into because I don't have all the other cool stuff going on. I run the Herding Cats podcast. It's a children's ministry podcast. It's a weekly thing. And so I've had Esther come on the show. I have all sorts of fun people. Ricardo, I saw Ricardo's here. So Ricardo's been on the podcast.
Awesome.
I've been doing children's ministry, family ministry for the last 10 years. I'm from Ohio. So I was actually wanting to play a game of putting in the chat thing what temperature it is right now, wherever you're at, because I bet I'd win. So yeah, I'm from Ohio, and
I think I'll win.
Where? Tell me.
Northern Wisconsin.
What's the temperature right now?
9, baby.
Oh, you won. See, I'm at
9.
26.
Well, at
I'm
least
at
it's going to
26.
be 9. It's dropping. We're currently holding it at 19, but it's dropping fast. We're supposed to hit 9 here quick.
Did I see somebody's from the Bahamas here, and I'm just like, what are we doing?
Oh, we got
Covet. I'm coveting. Covet.
Oh, I'm jealous. But anyways, so that's what I do. I chill out doing podcasting stuff. So I always try to look cool with my microphone. I'm not cool at all. But yeah, so I'm here to bring the party and to talk about all things Jesus and digital stuff. So I cannot wait. Look at these people bragging in the chat. Look at these people bragging in the chat.
Oh, it's 63 in the Bahamas. Don't make us so bad, okay?
Whatever.
Where you going to the beach tomorrow? You guys, we are so excited. Thank you so much. I do not take it for granted. You have taken your time. You know, I've sent you a few questions. You know, we're going to let the Spirit lead tonight. Check this out. If you are listening and you have a question and something is on your heart, please do put it in the question and answer box. I understand some people, we struggle with our listening abilities and we drop in the chat box because we get so excited. I have grace for that. And I try to put them there, but please put them in the question and answer box because we want to make sure that you come on here and you're like, man, I was having an issue and I just feel like I've really been helped in this area. Maybe we've talked about something. Maybe you're like, man, I really want to go here. Don't be afraid. Ask anything. This is your time. You have experts here to help you, and we are going to dig into this. So the first question that I have for you guys, Todd, I'm going to have you start. Trish, chime in. Sherry, chime in. After that, on that, I think that this is so important because obviously this is a global thing, right? This pandemic has hit everybody. Todd, you were just saying you had COVID, right? This has been hitting everybody, for children and families. This has disrupted so many things like never before. What are some healthy ways that you've seen children's ministries respond? Give us something that we can grasp onto this evening.
Well, I don't think there's any children's ministry that hasn't had to figure out which end of a camera and a microphone can work. I mean, over the last year, how many people on this chat have blown their budget out of the water, right? So, I mean, at this point, there's no way of doing ministry in a modern world without figuring out the digital end. And we're in children's ministry, like we're the kings and queens of puppets and all those things. And like, I saw lots of people who had to make some mental shifts, and I'm so glad that people were able to make those shifts, right? Like that was an amazing, amazing thing. That was an amazing thing to see. But one of the things that I've seen that's most effective right now, is anything that adds value to families in a way that they can consume digitally that makes them feel loved. And so here's what I mean, right? So I have heard of people who actually record audio, and they record things for their children's ministry where it's the children's pastor speaking directly to the kids. And I've even heard people get as specific as they record things for their small groups, and it's their small group leader or their Sunday school teacher talking to the children, right? And they just send an email or a link to their kids. Anything that you can do to get super personal, that's what I'm seeing that's been the most effective. Like ministry is still Jesus going to the woman at the well and like knowing her really well and loving her really well. And so any way that we can engage with families and continue that level of love, that's what's winning right now. Yeah. And so every way that we can do that in a digital distance format, I know it's not what we all prefer. I know that's not what we all love. Like I would love to be able to sit across from people and talk all day too, but that's not the world we're living in. And so I've been working over the last year to just figure out like, how can we do this? How can we do this digitally? Like, how can we make sure that this can happen? And the other thing is consistently, right? It's a consistency thing. Yeah. It's not like I sent a text message to a family and then like 3 months goes by and then I did it again. It's like, how am I doing that? Yeah. And then the other thing, and then I don't want to take all the time up, but the other thing is tracking everything, right? And so like what I said, consistency, you can only be consistent with what you track. And so like I have spreadsheets of like, here's when this person was contacted. Here's what it was. It was a note. It was an email. It was a text message. It was a phone call. I did a FaceTime call with a group with a family that has like 6 kids, right? Like I did a FaceTime call with them. How are you tracking things? Because we have to be consistent, we have to be personal, and we have to do it digitally or at a distance right now. And so the children's ministries I'm hearing of that are doing it the most effective, they're not even the ones that have all the crazy budget that can do all the amazing backdrops and the lights. It's the people who are being consistent and who are being super personal with whatever their strategy is, whatever they're trying to do. That's what I'm seeing that's really effective right now. Yeah.
The power of consistency. I mean, and I think that's hard, Todd, for a lot of us. I think that this is why we're doing this webinar on a whole new world, because for a lot of us, we're holding on, right? to the old world. No, and we're waiting for everything to go back to normal instead of embracing this new normal. And I think that blocks our consistency. I love how you mentioned that. Track consistency. Trisha, chime in here.
I would say absolutely. And consistency is so important all the way across the board, because it's kind of that saying, we are what we do every day. And our ministry is what we do every day or every week. It's not what we wish it was or what our slogan is or what we are hoping someday. It's what you're doing right now every week. That's who you are. So if you're wanting to change that direction, it has to be consistent, and especially with kids. You say it's supposed to happen, it better happen, because they will remember. They will remember. Sherry's laughing. She knows. They will remember what you said. And I believe in this time it's so important, because that may be some of the only stability that child may have. Yeah. And something that they can count on. Okay, their sports stuff is in upheaval. Their school is completely different. Everything is in upheaval. And I was thinking about this last night, thinking and praying about it. So everything is in upheaval. Usually this is when parents will say, don't talk about your pretend stuff. This is real. This is serious. So this is where kids find out what is real and what is pretend. Yeah. So if Jesus is real, then Jesus has to be real in a pandemic, And if what we said is real, then it's real when the world's upside down. So that comes through in the consistency. And what I've been saying with our kids is the scriptures still matter. This is all still for real, because they're still trying to divide what is make-believe and what is real. And I think this is a great time for that, because it just slices right through it. Okay, so you've got your pretend stories, the three bears, but this is Jesus and he's real, and this is what's really going on in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah. So yes, consistency is absolutely key. I don't think kids are going to show up if you change your times every week. They're not going to show up. You have to be absolutely consistent to build that following. And I would also say I've been pleading with our pastor that we're in kind of a different situation. Wisconsin right now has, for the most part, we've been back face-to-face for a while now. And my fear is I don't want to see us lose all of that digital progress that we just made and think of it as, well, that was just a Band-Aid, now we go back. Yeah. No, we made progress. We put investments into this. We started airing everything for people at home. We don't want to lose that. We need to keep that going and even make it better, make it sharper and better. It's not like, how quick can we dump all of this? Yeah. It's how do we move forward? And for us, that is, we have our live and we have our remote, because there are still some people that are remote. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Trisha, I'll take that even a step further. On the radio show last night for Effective Living with Ricardo Miller, we all love Ricardo Miller.
Yes.
We talked about that. Even, how do we stay consistent with that? But how do we use, our workers and volunteers and continue to use them on that end and making sure that they continue to feel included. So I love that you mentioned that. So important. Sherry, chime in on this. What do you think?
Okay, I think that Todd is right. We measure what we treasure. If you are not taking the time to measure what you're doing with children and families, then I would question that you really treasure communicating with them and being a part of community. So Todd, totally applaud the spreadsheets. I am a type A, I can totally geek out on that, but it's really not just having the spreadsheets for that sake. It's because it matters about individualization. I have a daughter that's a special ed teacher in Texas, and they call it IDEA. It's Individuals with Disability Education Act. And two of the kids were back in the Suburban riding the other day. And so the little 5-year-old says, Mom, what does IDEA mean? And so she spits out the acronym. And the 10-year-old is sitting back there, Mom, you need to get a new job. She just wants to know what a good idea is. How it is in children's ministry, right? The ideas that worked in the past are no longer what works. We're on this tram car. So when I think about a tram car that's going down these rails, and I think about the acronym for that, we are tweaking, we're revamping, we're adapting, we're modifying, we're changing, we're assisting, we're reevaluating, and the effective children's ministry leaders are doing that in real time. They have dropped verbiage of what it looked like in the past. And I love the fact that Trisha said consistency. It's on my digital vision board. I'm living it, I'm breathing it. I feel like it is our very DNA. Yeah. But here's what so many children's leaders forget. You can be consistent while being very individualized for every family. That's why you need the spreadsheets. It's one of those cases where A plus B really does equal C. Individualized, be consistent, track what you're doing. This is how the effective children's ministries are not only surviving, but they're thriving in the midst of the pandemic.
And by the way, this is what effective children's ministries were doing before the pandemic. And this is what effective children's ministries are going to do after the pandemic ends, right? Like it's it's simply adjusting and figuring out. It's like when Jesus tells the disciples, hey, I need you to go and figure out how to feed 5,000 people, right? Well, he already knew they couldn't do that on their own. He's giving us the tools to be able to do that. And so what did they do? They provided him with what they had. He multiplied it. Jesus has given us all the tools in a modern day to be able to handle this. He's just saying, hey, I need you to trust that I've already given it to you. Just be consistent. It's consistency. It's tracking. It's taking the things that we already have, right? Zoom, YouTube, email, texting, all the things. We already have them, right? Apple, they've invented it. Google has invented it. All these different platforms have invented these tools. We just now are taking it and going forth and doing it, right? This is the stuff that we're doing today with digital is what flannel graph was back in the day, whenever when they were meeting the realities back in the day that they were dealing with, right? This is just flannel graph today. And I loved one of the questions that was asked in the Q&A thing, where they asked about, I forget who it was who asked, but they said, what about whenever you have to deal with kids that are on all day looking at screens?
Yeah.
Whatever's effective, I don't care what it is. If you're out there doing smoke signals, right, getting messages to the kids across town, I don't care what you're doing, as long as it's effective. This is where you have to know your people.
Yeah.
And it's not just about me, right? It's not about me. And it's Jesus empowering this whole ministry to happen, and you have other people, right? So like send them out at Christmas time with Grinch bags, and you're Grinching their house, right? And you're putting these Grinch bags and you're saying, hey, I care about you. I see you. Yeah. Right. It's all of that stuff. It's all of that stuff. How can we make sure that we're reaching people in the most effective way possible? That's all we're trying to do.
Stay focused on that mission. Carrie, this really throws us into the next question that I have for you guys. I'm going to be fair. Sherry, I'm going to let you go first this time. Okay. And then we're going to go to Trisha. You're still in the middle. And then we're going to go to Todd. We're talking about this. Todd has mentioned we have been given all of these digital resources. They've always been out there. Now we're using. So here's my question. In a digital age, which we are obviously in, and we're dealing with digital natives, how can we stay connected with them without burning them out on screen time? Because, that's a real concern. I'm a mom, I'm a parent. Now they're in the school systems. Now the schools are under protocols where they literally have to be in a tight square, and the kids still now have to use their computers just for social distancing guidelines. Sherry, speak to us about all of this.
Okay, so I am excited that we have all these avenues of communication, but it kind of gets back to that real simple principle that we know as children's ministry leaders. We can either talk about Jesus or we can be Jesus. And I believe that he works in us and through us to be very personal with the emails, the texts, the FaceTime, the Google Duo, whatever method it is that we can reach a family. And I think one of the best things we can, y'all just take this with a grain of salt, you gently stalk your parents on social media, because they're telling you where they're at. And in large part, they're even telling you where the children are at. So it's not like we have to guess. We are not even really having to be intuitive. We are needing to check in on our families, and then we respond. Because one parent is dying for someone just to zoom in.
Oops.
Sherry was so passionate that she disappeared. Going to continue.
Did the rapture happen?
And we missed it, Todd. Ugh.
Oh no! Dang it!
You guys, and I know Sherry's coming back in, but I loved how she talked about how we can still find ways to be personal. When someone sends me a group text message versus sending me an individualized text message,
with their name.
Yes.
Platform, but it makes me feel so much more special. So just things like this. Trisha, speak to this.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say a little word here about balance, and not wanting to step on anybody's toes, but I've been in the church a long time, and we Christians don't do very well on balance. We tend to go hog wild off the deep end on whatever it is. And here's the thing. I think we got to be very careful about, and this is hard, ministry to the families that are ready to come back in person and the families that are not.
100%.
Yeah. And right now I have probably 3/4 of our kids back, and there are still some at home. And who do I want to reach? Both. Yeah. And the great part about it is, I'm telling you, when we opened back up face to face, they were just like drowning people desperate for air, because these kids are social creatures and they were just so desperate to see their friends. And it was all we could do to keep them 6 feet apart, because they just are so social and they just so desperately wanted. So then I had to deal with, things are different all over the country. They're everywhere, they're different. So we had some churches say our state was back face to face, and they were saying, well, you can't, shame on those families. They shouldn't be doing that. You should tell them they shouldn't be doing that. And I really don't tell the parents which choice to make. I support them in the choice that they make. Okay. So the parent that says, you know what, I'm thinking of one we've got, the boy has had many rounds of chemo. He's survived several brain tumors, and he has got a free, he's clear right now. He stays at home, and I support them with everything I've got. And then we've got some where all their kids have come. They've already all had COVID, so they don't care. And I support both families. I'm not there to tell them what to do. I'm supportive, and I don't want to cut that off with either set of families by saying this is the only way we're going to minister. I think it's a balance of both, even though that's harder. Yeah. It is harder. I know that it is harder, but I think it's a balance of both things. We are reaching out. The in-person is nice because it is an advantage the church has right now over just about everything else. If you're able to meet in person, it's that relational part that those kids are desperate for. Yeah. I talked to a couple of kids today. I just said, are you okay? And they were stressing out about midterms, because for Wisconsin right now, this is midterms week. Like first semester, end of second quarter. But one of them, she said that she couldn't find her phone the other night, and she broke down sobbing. And she said, Pastor Trish, I had a complete breakdown because that was my only link to other human beings. That was my only link to my only friends that I haven't seen in 10 months. Because her mom is high risk. She can't go back to face-to-face school, and she can't go to church. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart, because she said, Pastor Trish, I can't hardly get up in the morning. I have trouble getting through one school assignment. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't think straight. I don't want to eat. We know this is depression. Yes. And I know that's a whole nother topic. I just opened a whole nother can of worms, but I'm going to minister to the kids where they're at. Yeah. I'm not going to try to tell the parents what they've got to do, even though sometimes I'll tell the parent if I'm worrying about that child. Like I did make a call to dad today on that one. But I think we've got to balance our ministry. It is moving forward, not back to the way things were. You've heard me say it more than once. If I went on a missions trip to Russia, let's say, I know I can't do that, but if I went on a missions trip to Russia, I have a group of kids, I could scream at them all day in Swahili, and then say, well, it's your fault. I told the gospel, you kids won't listen. Too bad for you, and stomp my way out. No, I have to speak the language. Any missionary knows that. Yeah. Every missionary knows that. If you are the missionary, you better learn the language. And as Todd was pointing out, this is the language that they speak, is technology. Yeah. That's their language. So you can scream at them all day in whatever language we spoke back. I'm a Gen Xer, so I could scream at them in Backstreet Boys all day long, and they don't understand a word I'm saying. I'm not good at the tech. Yeah. I'm not. But I'm a minister called to be a missionary to reach that generation. I have to learn it. Yeah. So I have no other choice, because that's my calling. I don't think Go ahead.
Let me challenge you a little bit on that, and just to try to pull more nuggets, and it's not just Trisha, it's all of you guys, Todd, Sherry. What happens if you are in a situation, I just saw it, in the chat box where the senior leadership has decided all online, that outlet and reaching people is stopping. Maybe you've opened up. We're not doing that anymore, but that you have that situation where there are still people who are more comfortable staying home. They feel safer. How, in that situation, how can we continue to reach those people?
Right. I think that you need to view it, and this is how I would explain it, and this is how I've explained it to some folks, right? Our church has a shut-in ministry, all right? We have a shut-in ministry, and so that's for people who are older, who for whatever reason, maybe it's that they can't drive, maybe it's that they're going through a battle with cancer or whatever. But we have deacons in the church that every Sunday drive to their house and take a bulletin, and they take a CD and they take it to their house. They do this every single week. And so the way that I've explained this to people, and the way that I would explain this for Jane, is you need to explain that the same way that people have shut-in ministries is the same thing that we're dealing with now, right? Yeah. It's different circumstances. The way that I look at it is we're getting to a point where pastors are starting to have to behave. And I don't blame them, by the way. Like, this isn't me going and saying, oh, those dumb senior leaders, how dare they? I understand that the senior leadership in many churches, they're looking at things like the apostles, right? And they're going, hey, we can't wait on tables anymore. Like, we got to keep moving. I've got to figure out the next ministry thing. I'm dealing with all this COVID stuff. I have to keep this thing moving. I can't think about the children's worship space, and that's costing us $1 trillion to keep this thing to keep this thing running. I've got other things to figure out. That's why we're here, to help make it easier. That's why it's so important for us to understand how to communicate effectively. I don't ask for high schoolers to give me their cell phone numbers anymore. I only ask them for their Snapchat. And people can fight me about that all that they want. They can say it's unsafe. It's all these things. And that's fine. We can have that conversation. I'm telling you right now, a 10th grader is not checking their phone for text messages. They're not doing it. But they will 100% every time look if they see they have a Snapchat on their phone. We have to understand that. Now, the original question was, how do we do all this without burning them out, right? How do we do this without stressing them out even more and making it an even crazier thing from them? I want you to understand, would it drive you insane if you were doing something that you're just used to? Like, kids right now in elementary school don't know that you can't touch screens. Like, they don't understand that concept. Every screen they've ever touched since they were old enough to understand that concept, you've been able to touch it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So for them, it's different than it is for us, right? I'm a millennial. I'm 20.
My TVs look disgusting in my house.
100%. Esther, I helped you. See, they don't understand that you cannot touch screens. Because what around them can they not touch, right? Yeah. Now we even have Quest goggles that you put on, and you can play video games virtually where you're in a different world, right? Like, they're on other level stuff, right? Right.
So awesome.
So like, we have to understand, which, by the way, that's a whole other conversation Ricardo and I were having about why children's ministry isn't getting into the VR space. That's a whole other side thing. It's a whole other side thing.
Yeah.
Just gave 1 billion people $1 billion idea. So
you just blew my mind. You blew my mind there. That is so cool. And what you just said, I put it in the chat because why have I never heard that before? Todd, that is so awesome. We've always done ministry to shut-ins and nursing homes.
Yeah, we've always done that. That's been like, that's as old as the Bible. Like, we figured that out back in the Bible times. Like, we figured this out. We just have to figure out how to now package it in a way that we can get it to elementary school students and to preschoolers.
That's so good.
And we want to reach, I mean, we're talking, you guys, this evening about a whole new world. We want to reach the children. We want to reach the families. Let's shift the conversation just a little bit into parents. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Listen, I want you to start this one out. Todd, I want you to go next. And Sherry, I want you to add and really dig into this one. But okay, so we are in a world, right, where we're always talking about partnering with tell, blessed partner.
Yes.
Okay, so now this has been more critical than ever. So what advice do you guys have for children's ministry leaders who are on tonight to help them bridge the gap with parents in this season?
Absolutely. I would have to agree with my colleagues here about personalization. When I picked up the phone today to call that dad, now what I did, I knew that mom and dad are divorced and the girl is staying with mom. And I had just talked to mom about this situation. So this time I picked up the phone and called dad instead, quite on purpose, because dad has partial custody, and he was shocked. He had no idea what his daughter was going through. And I think one of the things we have to do is start asking that parent, what is an idea you have that might help, and showing what you observe. From what I'm noticing, the parents are under the same or worse stress than the kids.
Yeah.
They're sometimes having to work from home, or they lost their job, or they are worried about they're going to lose their job. A couple of the parents I called last week are nurses. They're on the front line. They're working the craziest, weirdest hours. And I woke them up because they're sleeping during the day, and I'm trying to share some of the concerns that I have. But I have found that, and this is going to sound really outdated, but with the parents, sometimes a good old-fashioned phone call, picking up the phone, does wonders.
Yeah.
I do regular communication through email. I do that. I absolutely do that every single Tuesday at 4 o'clock. So the consistency there, that is, the communication goes out to all the volunteers and to all the parents. Boom, boom, boom. So they know when to expect that. But I cannot take credit for this idea, because I got this actually from a high school teacher. She has, this is amazing. She has, oh dear, it's like 130 students.
Yeah.
And she has 2 people that help her. So there's 3 of them all together, but they send home like a progress report once a week.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how would I do that? I asked her, how would I do that if it were just me and quite a few more children than that? And she said, you have to break it down and think 5 a day.
Mm.
She said, when you look at the big, huge number, it's overwhelming. She said, you need to think 5 a day.
Mm.
So that really spoke to me. And she said, no, you cannot do that many children every week, maybe every 3 weeks. But she said, you're going to have to get on a consistent schedule, write it down, and do a rotation, 5 kids a week, or if you can spread it out with some volunteers. I have found that, for me at least, with the adults, a personal phone call seems to sometimes work wonders. And I have to break through layers of defensiveness.
Yeah.
Because typically their first thought is, oh, great, you're calling home. What happened? What did they do? What did they do? Oh, so you're upset we weren't in church the last few weeks. Oh, well, you know what? I'm doing the best I can right now, and we're going back and forth. And so then I listen. I do a lot of listening. And then I will say, hey, what have we done that has helped a lot? Did you like the basket? And if they say, what basket? Then I know, okay, the kids didn't tell them we dropped it off or whatever. Or if they say, yes, that was a huge help, we love that so much, then I know what's helpful. And I'll say, here's what we're offering. Is there anything else that we could do that would help? Here's what the church has coming up. We've got a food giveaway. Would that help? And no, there's no income requirements on that, but we'd just love for you to come. How can we support you? And sometimes just listening.
Yeah.
And I say, you know what, this is one of the things I usually say is, this is hard. This is hard for everybody.
Yeah.
And no, you're not a failure, because half the parents are like, my child isn't doing great in school. The kid is crying at night because they miss their friends. And and they all feel like they're failing, but how is anybody going to have experience doing this? We've never done this before.
So we have to have grace.
Grace.
Right.
Yes, grace.
I've had to do Todd chime in on this process because Todd, Trisha just gave us some great ideas, being personal, reaching out to people. Todd has some ideas. I've been reading the chat box.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jane had a great thing. She said in the chat. She said, "That's great. We talk about being personal, right? What happens if I have 600?" And I think that's, by the way, praise the Lord for that. That's an unbelievable problem to have.
Yes.
And by the way, for anybody listening who goes 600, like, I want that. No, you don't. By the way, no, you don't. Like, let me just say, you don't want that. That's a whole lot of smoke that you just aren't ready for.
600 kids, 276 volunteers. My short answer to that would be you have to have help. And it's probably what Todd's about to say. You have to have volunteer help there, staff help. You can't do that all yourself.
You are absolutely never going to be able to handle that on your own, which I'm assuming, there's a whole mega church world, bigger church world. That's a whole other playground to have to play in. So the quick answer, and we can talk later, or Trisha, anybody can talk later about this with you, but you can't do it by yourself. You're going to need to form teams, and you're going to need to form like basically a call center. You're in call center world now. Like you have to have volunteers, 15, 20, 25, interesting. So she says barely having volunteers. Oh man, let's go. That's ministry. So for those of you listening, you can't read this, but she said barely having volunteers. Most are taking a break.
Oh no.
Most are taking a break. So, all right. So what I would say is that you need to begin to mobilize. So you're going to need to go on a campaign where you're going to need to take your cell phone. You're going to need to shoot some videos. You're going to need to talk and really paint the picture of the story that you have going on. Because what I was going to say about the parent thing is, and Trisha kind of hit on this, parents are in a spot where they need to know really three things. They need to know, one, it is okay that they're not a Bible scholar. Okay. They already don't know how to do math homework. Good night. Look at Esther. Look at them. Look at this. They're trying to figure out math homework, and they need to know that it's okay that they don't know why it is that in some parts of Genesis, the dude's name is Abram, and other parts it's Abraham. Like, you don't need to know all that stuff. It's okay, right? So we need to make sure that when we're talking with parents, any of our communication, that, hey, we're in this with you. It's okay if you don't know all of the stuff about the Bible. And by the way, this is just a pro tip. That means that all of your strategy needs to be made so simple that a fifth grader could figure it out and lead their brother or sister in doing this. Okay. You need to make it all streamlined so that like literally anybody can do this stuff. So whatever your strategy is, you need to make sure that's a central part of it. Okay. That's the first thing. We need to make sure that they understand it's okay. You don't have to be a Bible scholar. That's the first thing. The second thing is they need to understand that you don't care about them because they have children in your ministry. Okay. That's right. They are Christ followers. Hopefully they're Christ followers. They matter too, right? So the first thing that I did was I went to the adult ministries director at our church, and I said, whatever strategy I come up with is great in terms of like children's ministry. That's awesome. Whatever we do has to include adult ministries because their parents matter. And so I want to be creating things that's going to fit in with the plan that you're already working on for the adults. And so a couple of really quick ideas. You need to be thinking of things that takes the pressure off the parents and allows them to build their relationship. If they are, hopefully, we hope that there's two parents in a household, but we also know that that's just not, that's not always the reality. So we have to be making sure that we're doing things that can take the pressure off. What is that? Figure out how to do Facebook Premiere or YouTube Premiere videos where you can have kids sit and do a worship service for a half an hour where parents don't have to be involved. Yeah. Because parents need that half an hour to go to the bathroom, to change their underwear, because Lord knows some people, hey, Esther, I'm looking at you. Some people might need that break. I'm just saying, right? They need the break. So don't be creating these complex things where the parents have to sit right with them and do everything. Like, make something that the kid can watch with some questions afterwards that the parents can interact with, right? So to make sure they know that they don't have to be a Bible scholar. We want to make sure that we're giving them a break. We're giving them an out, right? We're letting the parents say, okay, I'm going to make this super, super easy for you. And the third thing is, we're even making sure that we're doing stuff for the parents too. And I hate to be this guy, but like, sometimes, whatever your context is, there are just sometimes when there's other people that they're not probably intentionally dropping the ball. Yeah. But right now, parents are viewed as a commodity, and we have to figure out how to get parents to the church because the parents bring the kids. Yeah. We have to do something for the parents too. So if that means that we have to put our big girl pants and our big boy pants on and figure out how to organize small groups and figure out how to get parents into financial peace, or figure out how to get parents into something that actually is constructive for them. If we need to start keeping tabs on parents and seeing if we need to contact Job and Family Services to help them get work, whatever that is, remember that, like, there's the people who the apostles made into deacons, like, they're out baptizing people and doing all sorts of crap. So like, you got to figure out how it is that you're ministering to everybody, not just the kids, right? All of us can do that. All of us can do that. At the very least, we can shoot an email or a text message to the pastor, to the person who needs to have that information. Yeah. We have to make sure that we're doing things and ministering to the parents. That's why I love what Trisha was saying about how, hey, we have to have context. We have to understand where the parents are at. We have to understand all those things because the parents are influencing the kids. Like, we just can't deny the fact that the parents are the number one influencer in a kid's life, negatively or positively.
Yeah. So people matter, and people need to be over programming. We have to have this mindset.
Yeah. Yes.
Harry, I want you to go into our next question because I don't want to miss out on this. I knew, we had some questions that you guys, if you have questions, go ahead and put it in the question and answer box as our time is running down. But, and I knew that the people we had on here this evening, it was going to be so rich that we're going to run into this issue. But listen, Terry, I want you to kind of go into this and you guys chime in as needed. How are you staying on the pulse, okay, of how children are feeling in the midst of all of the crazy things that are happening in our world? I know we act like they don't know, but they do know. They see, they're picking up the world views from what their parents are whispering about in the house. Our kids are listening. So in the midst of that, how are you staying on the pulse? How can we as leaders stay on the pulse to really know how they're feeling so that we can effectively minister to their hearts in this season?
I think that's a really great question. It really ties into what we're doing for parents, but this is how we're ministering to the children. And there again, it's another acronym, but it bears repeating and writing down. We use a method called SASHET, SASHET. And we are giving the kids these 6 words. We're giving parents these 6 words. We're asking them to choose 1 or 2 and only spend 2 or less sentences explaining why they chose that. So here are the 6 options. Are you ready? Okay, so we give them the choice of, are you sad? Are you angry? Are you scared? Happy? Excited? Or tender? Now, if Todd asked me that tonight, I would say, oh, I'm excited and tender. Yeah. I'm excited because I get to be on here and we're making a difference in the lives of children and parents and families. And woohoo, we get to be Jesus on the ground and with technology. I'm excited. So that's one of my words. My next word would be, I'm tender. I've lost 3 friends in 3 days, younger than me. Okay, I told you 2 things that I am right now was very real and authentic using 2 of 6 words. What that does is it gives us time to be genuine and to respond to the person, gives us a way to pray for them, to have follow-up, whether it needs to be a call, a text, a card. You see, those 6 little words revolutionize what a child will tell you, because they know. I mean, I can walk up to some people in church now, and we've even gotten to where we try and do it in quads, that you have 4 people that you're kind of accountable and answerable to, because you're not going to own that to a total stranger. I mean, I did to you all, but with the exception of Todd, who I met tonight. But Todd, you seem trustworthy. You're hanging with my people, so I can be real and legit with you, okay? And with our panelists. But see, we do have to be very transparent and real. And so I think the way that we hook up with kids is we give them something like sachet. Not how are you doing? The answer will always be fine. Hey, out of these 6, where are you at?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes we turn it into a game. If they're happy, we do a little sachet 2-step. If they're in a real tender place, then we give them something that smells like a little sachet to remind them that Jesus is near and dear. See, there are ways to respond to kids and meet them where they're at. They just need to be able to tell us. So we give them a means to tell us. And to be honest, that works very effectively with parents.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. I don't know if we can add anything better to that.
No, that's an unbelievable tool.
That's incredible.
In the chat box, I'm like,
The only thing I would say is, like, figure out how to log that stuff. Like, figure out how to get that into your teacher's hands, your small group leader's hands.
Yes.
Train. Teach them to do that. And then, you know, Zoom calls and all that stuff. But that's amazing. That's a great tool.
fantastic, Sherry.
And we track that. You know, that is one of the things I'm tracking when I'm visiting with people, whether it's friends or at church or work related. The closer I get to them, the more I'm beginning to introduce that. And I find it's a great way to keep a true pulse on where we are with people of any age.
that is so. Sherry, tell us,
It's incredible.
what did the M mean in tram? This is a eager question that's here. I'm like, we got to get this question out of the way. It's
Modify. You tweak, you revamp, you adapt, you modify. If you're driving this car, you're going to change, you're going to assist, and you're going to reevaluate. I mean, isn't that what a children's minister is? We do that. We drive these tram cars. We are the epitome of change.
Yes.
We like change. And for the one that's sitting there saying, well, I don't like change, I'm tired of it. No, you're not. You don't go to the same restaurant 3 nights in a row. You don't like eating leftovers more than twice. Give me a break. You like change. The only reason you may not like it in children's ministry is because you're having to think different. God gave you the mind of Christ. Suck it up, Buttercup. Let's do this.
I knew I loved you, Sherry.
I love how you mentioned that word change. So Todd, I want to take it here. You know, I know we're running out of time. This is why I love working with these dynamic people. I mean, they are literally answering questions in the chat box, discussing, doing it as we go. I'm like, there's not even hardly anything left because they're so amazing. But I already knew that I was working with a powerhouse this evening. But Todd, check this out, and you guys chime in to this too, okay? We are in this whole new world. That is what this entire webinar is all about. What are some early warning signs that may signal? I know that we think that we may be doing it the right way. We're doing the best that we can to effectively reach our kids and our families. But what are some signs that maybe it's time to do a shift? Maybe we're not paying attention to this whole new world and we are still trying to operate off of the old way. What are some warning signs that we can?
Well, I'll tell you one way right now not to use. I'll start there. Numbers right now don't matter. So I just want to take the pressure off of everybody. So if you have 5 children coming to your space, I'll be transparent. I have 5 kids that showed up on Sunday. I had 5, okay? I had 30 show up for the Zoom call, and I had over 300 people look, and we know they clicked on the video on YouTube, okay? So we have to be completely transparent right now. Physical attendance numbers, the metrics that we used to use, that black cat is amazing. That you could just throw all of that out. No, that thing was amazing. You have to throw all of that stuff out the window, which, by the way, I think that metrics have been changing for a while. I think that COVID has just pulled the pants down on the whole thing. Like, I think that numbers like that were all kind of getting wonky anyways.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. That's the first thing that I'll say is don't necessarily view that as a metric of success. I will say this. The way that you can tell if you need to start changing is when you stop seeing actual changes happen. Okay. So I don't care if you had 5 children log onto a Zoom call. I don't care what you did. Okay. You can do whatever method you want. If you're still seeing life change happening, you're good. If you're still seeing people accept Jesus, if you're seeing people who are growing in their faith and their understanding of who God is, right? And that's children, that's teenagers, that's grownups, that's whatever, right? You're probably onto something. You're probably effective. When that starts to, which is, by the way, this is why it's so important. And I know I've been saying it all night, but this is why it's so important to track things. Yeah. Like, we have metrics for how we can track that. Like, have people requested to be baptized when you open back up?
Yeah.
Have people requested to get more information about Bible study stuff? Are parents are they using your resources, right? Like, are they clicking on your resources you have online? Those are all things that actually matter, right? Because those indicate life change. Just because I had a bunch of people look at a video, or because I had a bunch of people in my ministry, like, there are churches today, and I truly believe this, there are churches today that have thousands of people attending them, thousands of people. And they might as well just go to Starbucks because there's no life change happening there, right? So I want us to understand that we have to track things that actually matter. And when you start to see that decline, when you start seeing people not really wanting to ask the questions and figuring out things like baptism and all these things that we know are life change things, that's when you know that you need to start changing things up. And so the couple things that I would really suggest making sure that you're stressing, because these are going to get you to that goal. Stress getting people into Zoom calls, stress getting them into Facebook groups, stress getting them into places where they can actually interact. Okay, we want to create interaction. I want to have parents talking to other parents. I want to have kids able to talk. I saw somebody earlier put in the chat, they were talking about making sure that you can do video where they can interact with their friends and stuff. Yeah. Anything like that, I'm in. I'm all in, right? I want to figure out that. You have to figure out how to measure what's important. Yeah. When that starts to go, that's when you need to change. And those are the things that you need to go with. Small groups, figuring out how to get people into baptism and into, accepting Jesus and going deeper in their faith, whatever that looks like for your church. And I don't want to speak to what that is because every context is different. Yeah. Those are the things that you need to focus on. Those are the things that you need to go hard at.
Wow. You guys, this is, oh my goodness, I'm just blown away. I am loving how you guys are so involved in this chat box. We have had such an incredible evening together. Here, check this out. Trisha, tell us how we can follow you after this, because we're
absolutely.
Tell us.
Well, and I put in the chat box too what Todd was talking about. Again, mind blown. I found that interactive things have worked a whole lot better than I thought at getting them to come in, because Todd, we were having the opposite problem where we'd have them want to show up in person and we weren't getting them to participate online. Yeah. But I think it was, we were having to learn the consistency. Yep. And then the biggest thing, the one they just went for was GIMP kits, which shocked me. It was because they could play with their friends. Yeah. So I can design these Bible themes, and right now they want to do the Among Us one because Among Us is big and they want to vote each other off, and so they will plead, please, can we do a game? Please, just one game, just please, just only one. And I'll give in, and they will show up just to be able to play a game with their friends because it's been so long since they've gotten to play. And I will leave the chat on, and I will even leave their mics on so they can talk to each other. It's like the only time they get to interact. But right. I would absolutely love any questions. I try to answer any emails and messages within 24 hours. I sure try. I am on Facebook / Pastor Trisha. Yeah, one of the old school. thing. I'm on YouTube under the Peach Buzz. And you can get hold of me by email, trisha@peach.im. My husband's an IT guy. By the way, this will make you laugh. When I was in college, I went to Bible college, and I scandalized the whole school because I started dating an IT guy. And they were like, that's terrible. And I had people say, so you're giving up your calling? You're just going to throw your calling in the garbage and just walk away like that? And I had no idea even back then how important technology was going to be. And I just told you, I suck at it. He is the brains behind the when I go somewhere and I need to know how to broadcast. And I'm like, it won't work. I hit it and I yelled at it and it still won't work. He's like, stop touching, fix it. So God knew what he was doing.
I love it, Todd. Add on to all of the things that you put in the chat box. Tell us verbally how we can follow you as well, even though chat box is helpful as well.
Yeah, I put it in the chat box in case somebody missed it and didn't write it down or whatever. So you can find me. I love Instagram, so I live on Instagram. Remember, I'm 28 years old, so don't shoot me. Okay, I love Instagram. I'm always playing on there. Esther has a great Instagram. I love Esther's Instagram. So you can find me at Hicksonball Todd on Instagram. Just type that into the search bar. You can find me on Facebook. Just type my name in, Todd, HIXENBAUGH. That's where you can find me on Facebook. And I also, so I run a podcast. That's why Esther had me on. I think it's all it is that I talk. That's what I do. And so that podcast is called the Herding Cats Podcast. Listen to the podcast. You'll find out why it's called that. And it's about children's ministry. It's a weekly podcast. Go ahead, follow me there. You can get that anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So if you don't know what a podcast is, Google it. Google is your mother.
Your mommy.
Listen, Google is your mother.
Share.
You can ask it anything and she won't tell you to stop talking back.
Okay, Todd, that is the first time I've ever heard anyone in my entire life call Google a mother.
It's better than mom, right? She can tell you everything. She can tell you anything that you want to know. You just type it in.
In between, if Google is the mother, then YouTube must be the father. Because it totally gets you the information you need. I did put how to reach me in the chat box. On Facebook, it's at Sherry Lynn Chester. On YouTube, it's Women in Leadership with Sherry Chester. So go and follow and have a weekly YouTube live on Saturday mornings. And so we'd love to see you there. Do live on Facebook Wednesdays at noon, Food for Thought. Like Trisha, I'll answer your email within 24 hours if you email me at sherrychester7, because that's such a perfect number, sherrychester7@gmail.com.
I absolutely have loved our evening together. But listen, before we leave this evening, you guys, we are getting ready to shut down. But I think that this is so important. I wanted us to get all the information in on how to follow us. But let's close out this way. If we can kind of, Sherry, Trisha and Todd, if you can close out, if there's something in this season that you can leave with us for those who are overwhelmed, they're exhausted, they are tired, they are doing the best that they can to reach children and families, they're facing obstacles. Speak to them. What does God put in your spirit to speak to those leaders who are listening and who are here tonight?
Grace. Give yourself an immeasurable amount of grace. You're giving it to other people. Please, I'm beseeching you, give yourself grace. Write down those 5 to 7 things that maybe you've stopped doing for yourself for self-care. And Todd, you probably don't do the lotion thing, but for those female leaders, some good hand cream will go a long way. Or Todd, playing a game, all these things, but something.
No, I don't do it.
Thing that you can do. Oh, he's going to go lotion up after we get off.
No, I don't. I don't do that.
messing with you. But
I
find
do
those
not.
things that bring joy to your life. But above all, and boy, I can say this because I've had to own it. In ministry, it is so easy to say, oh, I'll do quiet time later in the day. I'll read the word.
Yes.
I'll make sure that I'm hearing from God later. First. Yeah. Jesus did it first for a reason. I'm begging you, be kind to yourself. Get in the word first. Be still. And during this time, one of the best things I know, and Tricia, I think I kind of gleaned some of this after you and I had visited on a coffee chat with Ryan Frank. I've gotten so intentional about making sure at the top of the hour, I am thanking God for something. If I'm looking and it's at the quarter hour, I'm praising God for something. At the bottom, at the half hour, I'm praying about something. At the 45 minutes, at the 3/4 of an hour, I'm deliberately making myself get quiet. Now, I may not catch that every hour, but I'm telling you, when I look at the time, whatever 15-minute block it's closest to, I make sure I stop and that I'm engaging with our Father that way, because I'm telling you, people are desperate for community. Yeah. We've got to be desperate for eternal community.
I love it. Trisha,
I would encourage you that, and I love what Sherry said. I would encourage you that some of the best things that God ever taught me were during the darkest times. And the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. They say that the darkest times make you what you are, but I think they also reveal what you already are. God wasn't shocked by any of this. He's not wringing his hands. He's not shocked. He called you for such a time as this. Your calling is not on pause. And that means he may have some of the most important things to tell you that you have ever heard. I think some of you came tonight saying, God, I need a word. Yeah. God, I need a word. And I think God would be telling you, don't give up. Don't give up on the brink of a breakthrough. Don't give up on the brink of a breakthrough. And I would be keeping your eyes open for what God is showing you in this time.
Incredible. Todd.
They've been great about doing the spiritual side, and I'm just gonna leave it with that. But I have something practical, and it's been said several times, and I want to reiterate it because I think it does go into the self-care thing, and I think it does go into the spiritual side. Don't get caught up in the wrong metrics. Don't get caught up in the wrong metrics. Nobody is like, Jesus is not going to ask you when you get to heaven, how many kids did you have in your ministry? Yeah. He's going to ask you very different questions. I'm just saying, track, be watching the metrics that matter. How many people, it's not about how many people are attending. It's about how many people are impacted, right? Like we don't ever hear about the other people when Peter preached the first sermon, right? At Pentecost. We don't ever hear about the other people who weren't impacted. We hear about the 3,000 that came to know God that day. So we need you to focus on the things that matter. Track those things, track your people, check on the people in your ministries. I mean, these are the things that effective ministries we're doing before. This is what they're going to be doing after the pandemic. Focus on those things.
I love it. You guys, thank you so much for being with us this evening. If you were here, I know that you got fed. I got fed. Know that we are here every third Tuesday of the month because we are in this thing together. You are not by yourself, and we are all about getting better together. You can check out the next webinars that are coming up. Follow me at Child's Heart 83 on Facebook or Weird Heart of a Child on Instagram. I explain that story all the time. But listen, you guys, so excited. Thank you so much. I've been reading the chat box. People are like, amen, hallelujah. Go this evening, be refreshed, and know that God goes before you. May he continue in his favor. Go before you, behind you, and on every side of you as you navigate through the wonderful world of this ministry. We will see you all next month. All right, guys. See you later.